So I must have looked preoccupied because the friend said to me, "A penny for your thoughts." And my response was, "You couldn't afford all the thoughts that are going through my mind right now." The reality was, they were just zipping through my brain like you would not believe, but it was so good for my friend to ask that old question, "A penny for your thoughts," because it brought me back to my friend who was right there with me. And I may have physically have been there, but my thoughts were far from my friend. And so it brought me back to my friend. Because my friend is worth more than a passing thought. Because a good way to picture the thoughts that are going through my brain all the time are like those little seeds of a dandelion just flying all around, flitting here and flitting there. And I needed to stop and focus on what was so important that was right there with me, my friend. Because my friend was worth way more than a passing thought. The reality is, you are worth more than a passing thought. You are worth more than a passing thought. And for me to celebrate what you are worth, I have found the best way to help me to focus on my friend, to give my best thoughts to my friend, is to pray for them, to put them into my prayers. And I'm not talking just a passing thought prayers, because sometimes I feel that happens when I go to someone, I say, "Boy, I could really use your prayers right now." And they say, "Okay, I'll pray for you." And then they go walk along. And I'm like, "Yeah, right. Do you think they're going to do it?" I mean, I shouldn't question them or anything. But sometimes I'm like, are you really going to do it? Are you going to put some thought into this prayer? Because I'm worth more than a passing thought. You're worth more than a passing thought. In fact, say that to yourself right now. I am worth more than a passing thought. Go ahead. I am worth more than a passing thought. You're worth everything that I can devote to you. You're worth all the prayers that I can pray for you. And when should I be praying these prayers? According to Jesus, non-stop. We hear in the Gospel of Luke chapter 18, verse 1, Jesus told his disciples a parable about the necessity for them to pray when? Always, without becoming weary. To pray always. To live a life of prayer. To be like that widow in the parable. Boy, was she tenacious or what? She just wouldn't stop because she wanted to be heard. And so she just kept up at it until her prayers were answered. We hear in the Gospel of Luke chapter 18, verse 7, the Lord asked, "Will not God then secure the rights of his chosen ones who call out to him day and night? Will not God then secure the rights of his chosen ones who call out to him day and night?" We are called to be continuous in our prayers for others, to not give up in our prayers for others, to have our prayers for others be more than a passing thought. Because the reality is, those passing thoughts in the right conditions, they can break through anything. I used to love to watch in our new subdivision in South Howland the weeds popping through the new asphalt driveways in the neighborhood. This happens. That little itty bitty dandelion fluff can break right through and bloom if you allow these passing thoughts to take root. If you allow these passing thoughts to persevere, to be, as St. Paul puts it in his second letter to Timothy, persistent. Remain faithful in what you have learned and believed. Be persistent whether it is convenient or inconvenient. Because the reality is, it isn't always convenient to spend time praying for others. It isn't always inconvenient. It is inconvenient. And yet, do people always need prayers when it's convenient? Do our friends always need us when it is convenient? I will be honest with you, in my over 30 years as a priest, rarely is a phone call for last rites convenient. Rarely. I mean, the one that I got a couple weeks ago, she's going to go right away. I mean, I put on some clothes and I ran over there, and I hadn't shaved or showered, okay? I really wasn't into the whole public father thing just yet. But when I walked in the room, don't worry, nobody there was shaved or showered, so I just kind of fit in. And yet, when did she need prayer? Right then. When did the family need prayer? Right then. And it was beautiful as we joined around her bed and began our prayers, and her eyes cracked open just a teensy bit. And two of her sons who were out in the mountains hunting somewhere, they were able to get them on their phones and put together a conference call, and we got to the part of the last rites where it's called the final farewell, where you tell the person how much you love them and tell them it's okay for them to go home. When the two sons said that on the cell phone, she reached up, took off her oxygen mask, and put her two hands like this, and became totally and completely peaceful, and passed away a short time later. Was it convenient for her two sons out there in the mountains hunting? Well, we thank God they had cell phone coverage. But the prayers were there. It was what she needed to hear. She loved them and their family so much, she didn't want to let go. She didn't want to leave them. But when she heard her son say to her, "It's okay, Mom, until we meet again," that peace that was brought, she was worth way more than a passing thought. And so as we journey through our life, we recognize that it's important to have prayer in our journey. It's important to be persistent in our journey. But it's also important to seek partnering in our journey. We hear in the wonderful first reading from the book of Exodus, chapter 17, verse 12, Moses' hands, however, grew tired, so they took a rock and put it under him and he sat on it. Meanwhile, Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and one on the other, so that his hands remained steady until sunset. Yeah, we're called to pray when? Without ceasing. We're called to pray when? Whether it's convenient or inconvenient. But we're only human beings. And there's times where we grow weary. We grow tired. But I think the biggest mistake that we make is to think that we're in this on our own, that we're all alone. The reality is, when we lift up our hands in prayer and they grow weary, how wonderful it is that we belong to a community that will come right beside us and help us to continue in our life of prayer. No matter how weary we become, they will be there to support us, to encourage us, to help us. That's what it means to be such a community of prayer, to take advantage of our wonderful prayer team ministry. They're there to support your arms in your time of need. They're there to help hold up your prayers for them. in your time of need or in the time of need of those you love. That's why we have the prayer intention book, where you can write your prayer needs. And even if you grow weary from praying for them, we pray for them at every Mass. We offer up those prayers for you. That's why we have votive candles. I love the great symbolism of those candles. You light one of those candles, and guess what? Your prayers continue, even when you maybe passing thought have forgot about it. We have our prayer warriors. You can put an intention on our website. You can send an email. You could phone me. You can text me. You could Facebook private message me. In fact, you can get hold of me in more ways than I would have ever imagined possible in the past. Not only will I hold up your arms in prayer, I'll send it out to the prayer warriors, where we have hundreds of people that will hold you up in prayer. Prayer is essential because you are worth more than a passing thought. And we take prayer very seriously here. Have you noticed what a community of prayer we are? What were we doing for over 2 years praying for an associate, remember? Put together those beautiful prayer books. Boy, I guess we had some really high expectation. 40 days of prayer for a new associate. And I prayed it. And then I prayed it again. And then I prayed those 40 days again. And I prayed those 40 days over and over and over and over again without ceasing for 2 years. And boom, Reverend David arrived. What a beautiful way to have the prayers answered. And then what do? We put together another 40 days of prayer to pray for his success and transition here as our associate. You remember that? Well, guess what? I prayed those over and over and over and over again too, because they're beautiful prayers to support him. But the exciting thing is he's going to be ordained on October 28th. And so in a special way, we're inviting you to continue your prayers for him with a special 9 days of prayer. 9 days of prayer starting this Wednesday, October 19th. Each day has a specific prayer need. We need to join like our noon Mass people and hold Reverend David up in prayer as we prepare for this special time. If you've not received one of these invitations, please make sure you get one on the way out. If you're live streaming it and you live in the area, stop by the church and we will give you one. If you're live streaming and you're outside the area, don't worry. All the prayers are on our website, right there on the home page of our website. In fact, Reverend David had even put together a video helping people to know how to say these prayers. You're worth more than a passing thought. You're worth prayer in the journey. You're worth persistence in the journey. You're worth partnering in the journey. You are worth everything that we can do for you to help support you in prayer.